I think there's more evidence for right now the best front three being Werner one side, BJ the other side, because they've scored goals together. They've done it.
Yeah.
They've went right across. And isn't that how Ange likes to play football? That his wingers come up at the back post and get the ball in, because the centre forward has to be doing little drop runs for the cut back. Son scored like that. We score goals like that. And also the defenders then drop and then leave the space in behind. So it's a brilliant tactic. It's a clever tactic. You put Kulu there at the weekend, first half, ball goes across the line. Why is Kulu not at the back post? If you're going to be a winger, you have to come in at the back post. He had tap-ins. He just wasn't ever there. So he's not the right winger. No one convinced me in a million years that Kulu is the right winger for Ange Ball. He doesn't get to the line. He always cuts back. It's the easiest thing in the world to defend. He's always going to cut back. And you don't have to stop him when he cuts back. You just know that he's slowed all the play down, and then everyone gets in a position, and he passes the ball back. It's the worst player for Ange Ball. Kulu does not work as a winger for Ange Ball. The other side, everything I've seen from Werner, that's fine. Take the man to the lane, put a ball flashing across the box, goals. So if right now, if you're going to play that system, I think Werner should stay. Obviously, you get rid of Gale, you get rid of Solomon, you bring in another fast winger who's going to get to the line. Personally, I don't also believe that Werner is exactly the quality that we need. So maybe it's a case of don't keep him and just bring in three blazingly fast dribbling wingers, and then you can maybe move around Kulu and see if he can get back into this, find his form. Because I think the worrying thing about Kulu is he was so bad in the Villa game first half. He was so bad, and then he was good in the second half, as in just positionally he was better to sneak in and get the ball. He wasn't like incredible, you know what I mean? He was like positionally good, better, but then he reverted and stayed bad form the whole way through the next game. So that's the worry for me. BJ is young, he makes mistakes. Sometimes he isn't strong enough, but then sometimes he is extremely strong. Then sometimes he just gets to the line, he's got assist after assist this season. Get to the line, put the ball across, front post, back post. He reads, he looks up and he finds the pass. So I think if you're Ange, you're looking at going, BJ actually, if I tell him, get to the line, put the ball across, he does it. Kulu doesn't and maybe can't. So I think they're not quite yet, but I'm willing to say BJ's young. Werner can probably continue doing it. You probably would keep them because they're not bad impact subs, right? Like they've come on and they've both impacted and scored in games. So I think that, but I genuinely think you go into the market and you get maybe one or two. So you definitely sell. It's all going to be about how many players we can sell and get out and get sort of better money for. You definitely get rid of Gale. You definitely get rid of Lo Celso, Sessegnon, Solomon. Anyone who's not played 10 games this season in an injury hit season, you're never going to play for the club. Like, when would you play if you've not played 10 this season? We don't need you, and we can't be this charity club that keeps players like, well, let's feel sorry for him because it's tough life. But Ange is not going to be remembered in a few years for he was that nice guy that kept those players in. No, he's got a job to do. So I think we've got to seriously, if he wants to play that front foot football, you got to buy players in, because those players actually even have to get back sometimes. So a lot of work in the market for me.
Yeah, for me, I think the number 9 position is sorted at Tottenham. When you look at it, I think Sonny is the best number 9 at the football club. That's where I disagreed with you, Sonny. I think he's very effective there. But having said that, he's the best left winger at this football club as well. But I do think he's more effective at number 9 from what he's shown this season than he is from a left. You look at maybe a development in a player's career, and I think that's what you're seeing with Heung-min Son at the moment. So I'm happy going into next season with Sonny as the starting number 9, Richarlison and Valise as the backup options for number 9 going into next season. Obviously, if a big bid comes in for Richarlison, then that's something you've got to think about, and that's something that you've got to replace. But I'm looking at it as next season as Richarlison is going to be here, and Richarlison is going to be the backup number 9 for Heung-min Son. So where it leaves us is options on the wings, and I don't think that any of the wing options, maybe bar Brennan Johnson and Solomon, in terms of what they want to do and what they're looking like they can do, are fit for Ange ball. I think Kulusevski, I want to see him move into the middle and maybe be the replacement for Lo Celso, whether it be fighting James Maddison for the number 10 position or against low blocks playing alongside James Maddison in the midfield. So I want to see Kulusevski move a lot more central in the team next season. And then that leaves us with buying a right winger that can fight with Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, it's up to Mano Solomon to prove his fitness. If he can't prove his fitness, then we got to be ruthless and say goodbye and then bring in 2 left wingers for next season. So it's either a case of bringing in 2 wingers next season, or 3 wingers in terms of Mano Solomon can prove his fitness or not. But I think that is the way we need to go. We need to bring in one-on-one demons. We need to bring in wingers that can dribble, get to the byline, cut back, cross. We just don't have that at the moment. And I think that's what's really hurting us on a consistent basis. But I'm certain of it now. I wasn't certain of it maybe a couple of months back, but I'm certain of it now that Heung-min Son has got to stay in the number 9 position. Where are you at with it, Sim?
Yeah, I think this season has been an example of where Son is at his best and is at his sharpest and is at his, I think, the most crucial thing, at his most effective. I think he's at his most effective by far when he's in a striking position. Yes, there are going to be games where maybe he can do well on the left. We saw that against Newcastle, and there's been other games where he has, made a difference on the left wing. And maybe there are games like, for example, against low blocks where maybe he will be more effective on the left than up front. But I think overall, if you're looking at Son's biggest strengths, and I'm looking at as well him in making a difference in each position, I just think he's so much better and more effective as a striker. I think it makes him the most use of his finishing ability, which is his most elite attribute. And I think he's also helped stretch the play running in behind, which I don't think Richarlison is as good at. And he can still do those first-time finishes that Richarlison can do. If you get it to him quickly in enough space, he's got that finishing ability to finish very quickly. We saw that against Aston Villa. Just needed one touch, a little bit of space, and bam, it's in the roof of the net. I think that is his best position, especially at his age. I think the way Ange wants his wingers to play, he wants them to be constantly getting at their fullback. He wants them to be relentless. He wants them to be stretching them constantly, taking them on, asking them different questions, cutting inside, going on the outside. And I just don't think that is Sonny's game anymore, as much as I love him. I just think he's 31. Physically, he has to manage when he makes those runs, how he uses his pace. And I don't think him being on the left is the answer anymore. So I do want to see him move away from that position. That leaves one space on the left at the moment. If I'm not really considering Solomon, to be honest. I think for next season, if Solomon gets fit, I loan him out and try and build some money, try and build some value for him. Even if he's fit, I don't know if I keep him because I don't even know if he's good enough, even if he is fit, to be honest.
I heard Shakhtar looking for a left winger.
Yeah, potentially. We can send him back to Shakhtar on loan.
Guard them through the teeth.
For me, I would not sign Werner permanently at this current stage. I think that if you're asking me as of 19th of March 2024, I'm not taking up the option for Timo Werner. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good short-term option for us, but I'm not going to sign him permanently. I don't know. I don't think I've seen enough evidence that he's a player who's going to be good enough to take us to the next level, if that's what we're trying to do. So I wouldn't sign him. So what I would do is I would sign 2 wingers. Maybe if we see Brendan as someone who can play on the right or the left, you sign one winger who's a specialist left winger and another winger who can be probably multi-directional, can play on the right or the left. To be honest, I'm not as pessimistic on Kulusevski as you guys are. I still think he's a good player, and I do think he can play that role on the right wing to a better standard than you guys. I think he's one of the only players as well who has a different quality in his ability to just keep the ball, hold off players, use his strength. And I think against Villa, I don't think it was just positioning. I think he was doing some really good stuff as a winger. I thought he was taking people on. I thought he was using his ability in the final third to pick players out, which what I know he's got. And look, he is starting to get these goal contributions back up, but it's not at the level we like. I think he's on 6 goals and 3 assists, which is not terrible, but it's not the level that he came to Spurs at. But I still really believe in him. You got to remember, he's only a year older than Brennan. He's still also very young and getting used to a new system. So I'm giving him a bit of grace. I think he's doing pretty well.
But what you got to realise about Kulusevski is he considers himself as a central player. Why not play him where he considers himself and his strongest position?
I think he considers himself as a player who, look, at Parma he was a good number 10. I've also seen him say he likes to play on the wing as well. I think he can play both positions.
He can play both positions, but he said in multiple interviews that his natural position, or where he considers himself most strong, is through the centre of the park.
I've seen that. Yeah, he said that as well, and he's also said he was also a natural winger. I've heard him say that as well. Like, he said both. Like, I think he can play both personally, and I think if he's going to be a number 10, it creates an awkward issue because he's not going to get in ahead of Maddison. He could be a rotation there. Could he be a number 8 potentially? Yes, but does he have the defensive discipline to play that position? I think we don't know that yet. So I think the
then
best
would you start him
player
ahead
away
of? Would you start him ahead of Brennan Johnson right now, though?
Who, Kulusevski on the right?
Yeah.
I think I would. I think he's a higher caliber player than Brennan Johnson. But
Brennan Johnson has 10 goal involvements, and Kulu has 9.
I get that, but I think Kulusevski has showed a higher level of performance I'm not looking at just goal contributions and stats, I'm looking at level of performance. And I think that Kulusevski has shown a higher level of performance than Brennan Johnson this season. A lot of the times where Brennan Johnson has provided goal contributions, his level of performance has actually been poor. It's only the last couple of games, maybe Fulham aside, you're looking at the Villa game and when he came off of the bench from Crystal Palace, where we saw maybe 2 games in a row, which was, high level of performance from Brennan Johnson. I think he can grow into that role, Brennan. But what I want to see is 2 out-and-out wingers with Kulu tucked inside and then one fight with Brennan Johnson, like a Bakayoko from PSV. I think he would be perfect addition for us. Perfect.
I think the difficulty what we're seeing right now with Richarlison is that, I don't know if you guys heard this, but something seems a bit afoot when you've got Ange saying, no, he's out, he's definitely injured, and then Richarlison saying, no, I'm back in training, I'll be available next weekend. I can see that Ange doesn't really want to play him, but then you've got a 65 million striker who wants to play, being backup to a great striker. It's like, I don't know if that is something that could work long term. I don't think Sonny should be on the wings. I think he's so intelligent as a striker, his movement. And then I think Richarlison's not as intelligent as a striker, but I don't think he's good on the wings. He doesn't take his man on and stuff. So I think you got a problem there. I think someone's going to have to give. You got too many players who aren't perfect for the system. So at that point, the easy answer just goes, well, let's not complicate things with Werner. Let's just send him back because it's one less problem. If they're not perfect, they're not right. So then you go, let's try see if we can get a good amount of money for Richarlison. Brennan Johnson is young. He does have good stats. He's got something. He obviously had an injury this season as well, and he's got those stats. So there is hope for Brennan Johnson. He can learn. I think he can take on Ange, philosophy more. And then obviously Kulu, I think, is too much. We've invested. He's too, potentially, the ceiling for him is too good in multiple different positions, which Ange loves. So you got to keep those 2. But I think I think you got to be looking at Werner maybe back, Richie gone, Solomon off, Gale off, and then you've room to maybe bring in 3 or 4, and maybe you're looking at a row as a young understudy first, and then like a Bakayoko or one of those bigger names,